Rippy here, Monday morning, September the 16th. I'm over by Marysville and at 5th Street in Maple. I was born in a hospital less than a mile from here 53 years ago. And yesterday I drove by and I seen this house for sale, and this is our Loyd Wright house. We have a few pretty nice houses around here, but this is kind of a forgotten one because it's not attributed to one of the 500 and some Loyd Wright houses. Loyd Wright's life was wrapped in turmoil, basically. And a quick, just off the top of my head, biography of Loyd Wright. This is the house here. We would call it the Scott House sometimes. And anyway, when Loyd Wright was born, his mom wanted him to be an architect, and that was in the late 1860s. And he was born in Richland Center, which is north of Dodgeville, Wisconsin. The family moved to Massachusetts. Didn't work out, so they moved back to Wisconsin within a couple years. So he was raised up to age 14. The dad said to heck with it. The wife wasn't paying attention. Loyd Wright's dad left and went back east, sued the mom for not paying attention. Frank stayed with his mom. She raised him. He went to college in Madison and dropped out of college, and at age 18 he was in Chicago working for a famous architecture firm. And there was a big building boom because it was post Chicago fire. The building boom would ensue on through the 20s, as we know. So it was kind of a right place, right time thing for him. Turns out I really don't like the guy. He was just a showman more than an architect. But Loyd Wright's biography goes on to where in 1910 was really his heyday. He was about 40, and in 06 he designed and they built the Westcott place in Springfield, which was an industrialist from Chicago. It's a bona fide Loyd Wright house, the Westcott place. They just spent I don't know how many $1 million on it, fixing it up. It's $20 to look at it. We did a few videos there and would like to go back. I was anxious to do some more, and I meant to do more Loyd Wright videos. So that was 06, and there was a Coe family from here. I'll talk about them in a bit. By 010 they needed a house. So, and then also in 100 years ago, 1910, Loyd Wright decided he wanted a house. He built Taliesin over there back on his mom's land, in which he called it the West Chicago Prairie, out by Dodgeville and Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, on the Mississippi River out that way, north of US 18. And so he kind of had women problems. He was becoming famous like a rock star for this architecture for some reason. It was a cool thing at that time. And in 06, that was when the house was built in Springfield. He was commissioned to do a house for a neighbor of his, and he got hooked up with a wife, and they went over to Europe. They ran off together, and it was a talk of the town, they said. And they came back. These people, these Coes, got papers of this house. They call it a Loyd Wright design. Okay, it's not a bona fide. It's a Loyd Wright house on the cheap's what it is. Caveat emptor. You know, it's up to the buyer to decide. Buyer beware. But like I said, I was born in a hospital. I know this is Loyd house. You can tell just looking at it. But anyway, when Loyd Wright built his house out there in Wisconsin, which was the worst thing for him. Wisconsin was the worst thing for the guy. One of the workers out there ended up killing everyone, set the place on fire, and the people that lived out there put the fire out, thankfully. But the guy killed 7 people out there with an axe. And to this day, it's the largest mass murder in the state of Wisconsin. Was out there at Loyd Wright's house in 1914, and he killed his lover out there. This freaking nut job. So the nut job starves himself to death. I think that's like one of the first of that. The guy who killed them all lived, and then he starved himself to death 7 weeks later. This is just a quick biography, and Frank Lloyd Wright's work, in my opinion, was never worth a crap after 1914. It was completely different. The falling water, people talk about falling water. If that's the first thing that comes to your mind when they mention Frank Lloyd Wright, then you don't know much about Frank Lloyd Wright, in my opinion. Falling water was designed in a matter of 3 hours. It was all the structural things were wrong with it. The one in California Frank Lloyd Wright did was all a mumbo hodgepodge, and the lady, the oil baron heiress who commissioned it, gave it away. Didn't even live in it or want it or nothing after he was done. His work sucked, basically. And so this was in the heyday. Oh gosh, so much about that guy. His life was a train wreck. And this guy kills everybody. So now Frank's, all this death reflected in his work, and his work sucked after that time, after the murders. And then when Frank Lloyd Wright died, this is just a quick biography again. He died in '59, and his last wife died in '84. They dug his ashes up from Wisconsin and took him out to Arizona. So thankfully his body got the heck out of Arizona, but it took to 1984. But these Coe folks, back in the 1900s, they were in the fertilizer business, and 85% of America was into farming. And their house would get flooded. The creek's 3 blocks away from here. They hooked onto the house with their team of horses, and they were pulling the house up the hill, and the house fell over and down the hill. So he needed a new house, and he's working in Chicago, and he got plans off Frank Lloyd Wright's firm with the Sullivans and Alters, and he had this house built in 1910. And it was completed in 2012, and they were living in there. And this is just a great place. It's less than 2 acres, 1 3/4 acres. They're only asking $475. The place over here, the brick home's at $375. $475. You can get a nice house, a new one for that too, in a way. Fairly decent, but it's the materials. But it's kind of funny that the Coe family, their house got fallen over when they were pulling it up here with a team of horses, their old house. And then Frank Lloyd Wright house has all this structural integrity to it, and he called his architecture organic architecture. But this is a place in California that they built, Taliesin West, and that's where they took the ashes to from Wisconsin, from the original Taliesin out there by Dodgeville. That's where all those murders took place, and then he tried to live out there. But you can see in this house, this one here, and I'll put the link to the Zillow. So this is the Prescott house over here. It's like a Japanese with a pergola. But I wanted to show, in the ceiling you can tell, in the lines in the houses, the lines in the ceilings, and they made shelves, and that was part of the structure, the bones of the building. But these ceilings have these lines that contrast with the white, and as opposed to having an attic and truss space, he would open that up, the open ceiling. Okay, this is the one up in Wisconsin where the murders took place. Taliesin. But I was just excited when I seen this house was for sale, and I've been putting off doing this video on Marysville's Frank Lloyd Wright house. Here in the ceiling, that's his work from his firm. Oh wow, the windows are going down to the floor here, almost. Harlow likes that. He likes to sit on the floor and look out the window. That's why you want your windows to come clear to the floor. Kind of an office looking, but yeah, his buildings became looking like morgues, and after the murders, I I related to Elvis Presley when his dad moved to Louisville and his mom, and he ended up growing up in Memphis. He should have went to Louisville, in my opinion. He'd have had a better life. But there's 60 pictures online of the house, and at photos 16 and 17 you can really tell there's the building, Japanese out there. But yeah, this is Marysville's Frank Lloyd Wright house, and it's for sale. It hasn't been sold in 30 years, and there's 2 acres here, so I'm afraid there's room here for 8 houses. I'm afraid it's gonna be, this is kind of now or never video but it has been on the market for 2 months, so you wonder what's up with that. Thanks for watching my videos, everyone. Have a great week. Beauregard Rippy, the forgotten Frank Lloyd Wright house. It's just a funny business anyway, and talk about swimming with the sharks, and he got involved with a bunch of murders and everything, and the people in Wisconsin, and kind of his first 40 years were the best, but after that it was just awful. And I suppose he did have happiness though through it all, and even in death they exhumed his body and all that stuff and relocated the ashes. They actually mixed the ashes with his last wife's, according to what I'm hearing. So thanks for watching my videos, everyone. Beauregard Rippy here.